Every investing app in 2024 needs to have this critical feature to make it great. This is trickier than it sounds because there are a ton of financial technology services nowadays that are always coming and going. Their big lists of features are so tempting for us. They've got appealing offers and nice design and all of this stuff. But if they don't have this feature, then forget about it. Don't use it. Move on. But I also have a small confession to make, because as I was preparing to make this video podcast for you, I realized that there's not just one feature that I can land on. I had one in mind, and I thought, oh, that's good. That's a viable thing that we have to have. But so is this other one, and so is this third one. And then before long, I had 4 critical features that every investing app has got to have in 2024. So here's what they are. In no particular order, number 1, it's got to have fractional shares. And that doesn't mean you're getting less value, like you get fraction of a value. It's not that at all. What this means is that the service lets you invest a tiny amount of money, whatever amount you have pretty much, and at the same time you get to buy partial shares of whatever you want. So instead of having to save up $300 or $1,000 or more to buy one share of a company that has a high stock price, you get to buy it in whatever increment you want. And I think there's a funny thing that happens with beginners whenever they're investing, that somehow they correlate the price of the share to a higher value. It's sort of like we treat buying shares like we treat buying other things in life. Like, wow, if those shoes are $300, they're probably nicer than my shoes that only cost $30. And then they create that same logic in their mind around stocks too. That's just not the way it works. A bunch of factors contributing to why a stock price is either high or low. The fact that an AT&T stock is like $8 and a Berkshire Hathaway stock is like crazy money doesn't mean that Berkshire Hathaway is inherently worth a ton more than AT&T. We just can't look at it that way. So the actual number that the share price is, I just disregard. Frankly, I don't care, because I'm in it for the underlying value of the company and what I expect it to do in the future. I'm not there to say, oh, well, this is a $20 stock and I've got $20 I can invest, so I should buy that one. If you have fractional shares, you don't have to do any of that mental math whatsoever, and that's the way it should be. I'll do a more specific example here, and if you're watching the video version of this, put it up on the screen so you can see. So here's a share of Apple within the investing app that's called Webull, Webull. Use them for a while. They're not my favorite, but they definitely have this feature, and it's a decent thing. So if you look at the share of Apple, and you look at the graph over time of what the price has done, they have absolutely killed it over the last 20 years. Tons of growth, tons of profit, and this share price is representative of them being like the most successful company of all time, maybe, depends on who you ask. But the problem is, if you want to buy a whole share of Apple, it's like $173, $174. And so if you're somebody who's just getting started, or you're just going to invest, let's say $50 per paycheck or something like that, what, are you never going to be able to invest in Apple? No, it's ridiculous. So instead of doing that, you can say, hey, $20 out of my 50, I want to put towards Apple. And you get a fraction of a whole share. And yeah, it'll take you 5 or 6 times doing that to be able to get a whole share. No, that's bad math. It'll take you like closer to 8 or 10 times doing that to get a whole share. But in the end, you'll have a whole share. And the only concern with this, if you're sitting here going, yeah, but what about dividends? The concern is that if you intentionally want to seek out dividends, typically, in my experience, you don't get fractional dividends. You only get a dividend based on the whole share that you owe, or that you own. And so what that means is, like, if you're looking to get kind of a monthly income back from your investments, and you're going to pick specific stocks and companies, or even ETFs, funds that pay dividends, what you have to know is that fractional shares, in all my experiences, will not give you the dividend. You have to have the whole share in a round number, and you get a dividend based off of that. So there's kind of a threshold there that you need to be aware of. But if you're like me, and most of your investing gains are expected to come from just growth over time, they're not expected to come from dividends, and or you're not expecting to live off of a dividend income or anything like that right now, and it's not like top of mind for you, then you don't need to worry about that. On to the next thing. Feature number 2, every investing account in 2024 should have multiple account types available. I have seen it in the past where some feature comes out on a new investing service. Oh, we're going to be the best investing service because we offer you all these cool tools. And then you go to invest an account and you realize all they have is a taxable brokerage. Come on, guys. I mean, I like a taxable brokerage. I think, if anything, I like a taxable brokerage more than most of the people on the internet that talk about money. But the problem is that you need more options than that. And here's why. Most of us don't just need to use one kind of investing account. Most of us need to be using both a taxable brokerage and some kind of retirement savings vehicle. If we're not investing to just day trade or to play around, like people call it play money, bro, I make over $100,000 a year. I don't have the money to have play money. I don't know where you live and what your income is that you think you've got play money to do stock market games with, but tell you what, that's not me, buddy. If you're doing that, by all means, just use whatever account you want. The other 99% of us over here are going to be using more than one type of account. So what that means is that you can have different goals based on your different types of investing accounts. At least this is how I think about it in my mind. So when you're first starting out and you're just unsure, let's say, about your future, or if you're going to want to have money available for later on because maybe you need to buy a house or maybe something else is going to happen and you're not wanting to lock down your money, then you should probably just use a taxable brokerage account. It gives you the most flexibility. You can always take the money out later if you need to. There's no penalties or anything like that. So it's a very simple, clean, accessible, liquid account. I think for a lot of people, this is where they should start, and they shouldn't be doing tons and tons of research and worrying about what kind of account to open. Just get the ball rolling. You can always take the money that you've invested in a taxable brokerage and then throw it into an IRA later on, or transfer it over to something else. Like, it's not like it's going to be there for forever, because a taxable brokerage is the fluid one. It's the easy one to move. Now, on top of that, I think that at whatever age and stage of life you're in, that you can become comfortable with the idea of, I'm locking away this money for a long period of time. I'm setting myself up for retirement. I'm not going to touch this money. This is for future me to live off of when I can't work anymore for whatever reason. A lot of times people get forced into retirement because they've got a family member they need to take care of. And so that becomes their full-time job. Maybe it's your spouse, and you go, I literally can't work. I've got a nest egg. It's time to retire because I'm going to take care of my wife. Or maybe you have health problems and you frankly can't do the work you used to do. I'm in construction full-time, and the work that most people do in construction is very physical in nature. I was building a car wash in Phoenix in, what year was that? 2016, 2017? Great big long car wash, 135-foot tunnel. Almost the entire building was all masonry, because that's what you should build a car wash out of, at least in Arizona. And so masons are a big part of that project. And the company that we were using to build this particular car wash, the owner was telling me that, like, his head guy, the guy that he had built his company with, had been with him for over a decade, had just been forced into retirement because the work was so hard on his hands and his shoulders that he just couldn't lay block anymore. It had, at a certain point, stopped making him stronger, and it had ended up wearing him out, such to the point where it's like, hey man, this is what you know how to do. You know how to lay block. You know how to run a team of guys and make sure the block is laid properly and straight and all the things, and he just can't do it anymore. And so that guy had built his whole skill set around the physical working of his body, and when he lost that particular area of physical ability, he basically lost his career. So can he not work at all? No, he'll probably go do something else, but he can't do his high-paying job that he was doing before because his body doesn't work anymore. So you can get forced into retirement, and at some point, all of us will either die or have to stop working. So we need to basically be planning for that time, whether it's a glorious retirement in the sun on a sunny beach, or if it's a, hey man, times are rough, I can't work for now, or I can't work ever again. You got to have the money saved up for that time. And so when that time comes that you say, I'm comfortable with that reality, I know that sounds pretty bleak, right? That was a very negative Nancy moment here I just talked about for the last 5 minutes. I also see the potential of that to be a bright shining moment too, to where you go, hey, maybe my body doesn't work anymore, but I have a bunch of money saved because I've been investing for retirement for a long time. That could be really great because it's that light at the end of the tunnel to go, this sucks, but I'm ready for it. Or maybe you just go, hey, you know what? I'm 59 and I'm sick of my career. I'm going to go do something fun, and I'll support myself in the meantime by my retirement savings. Or maybe you're super hardcore and you save up and you can retire in your 30s and you're just crushing it, and you go, I'm going to have all this time for the rest of my life to be active, to be a good parent, to be a good friend, to show up for people around me, to volunteer. Like, there's a lot of great retirement options that I think people in the sort of personal finance community think about a lot and we're well aware of. And a lot of people out in the world, maybe that's you listening to this right now, had just never considered the possibility of that, because the norm is that we all just work for so long that the concept of retiring early when you're still young and healthy and fit and capable just never even crossed your mind, because it's such like a pie in the sky crazy thing. I would especially love if you're a young person and you're listening to this, or maybe you're a parent of a young person, you've got your freshman in high school who wants to be a race car driver. Hey, cast the vision now. Work hard, start saving today, invest that money today, because the younger you start, the more you'll have. And maybe that person goes, hey, at 40, I'm going to have all the options in the world. If I love my job, I'll keep doing it. If I don't, I'm getting out. So let's treat retirement with what it is, which is a parachute in the worst case and a plane ticket to paradise in the best case. All that to say, very long-winded lead up to say, when you're comfortable with the idea of locking this money away for this very specific intended purpose of retirement, the time will come that you need to have a retirement account. You don't have to do that. You don't have to use a retirement account. But the fact is that you will end up with more money in the end because of the tax benefits. Depending on how you want to structure that, you could use either a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. Those are kind of the two main ones. If you have the option at your job, a 401k is also a very good option for most people. And there's even such a thing as a Roth 401k, which that's partially what we do with my wife's investments, is she does part of her paycheck goes to a Roth 401k and part of it goes to a traditional 401k. Is it kind of weird to split it up like that? Maybe. But I feel like for us, the fact is that we don't necessarily know what option is going to be the best for us between a Roth and a traditional setup. If you're not familiar, we'll do kind of a brief Roth versus traditional comparison here. And the point of this podcast is that we can go a little bit more in depth into things. If you want to skip ahead a minute or two and skip this, then by all means do that, because if you have this memorized, then you don't need to hear it. But a Roth account, either a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k, is a really unique and appealing thing, because what that means is the money you get from your paycheck today that you use to put into a Roth account is taxed normally like all the rest of your paycheck money is. So you don't get a special tax break today. Brendan, why is that so great? That sounds terrible. It sounds like all my other money where I get a big chunk of it taken out by the government. It is great, because what that means is it will never be taxed again. So once the money enters a Roth account, it has already had its haircut. It's already been sacrificed to the tax gods. And for the rest of its existence within that Roth account, it will grow completely tax-free. And when the time comes to take out that money, you will take it out and not be taxed on it then either. So for the rest of all time, it's tax-free. This is a really great method if you're young, if you don't earn a ton of money, or frankly, if you just don't want to have to mess with whatever taxes are going to be in the future. For me, that's a lot of the allure, is just the simplicity of this, to go, look, man, I paid my ticket back in the day to get in the door of this Roth, and now I don't have to worry about taxes ever again. So every dollar in that account is yours. Unlike a Roth, it's the opposite with a traditional account. Whether that's a traditional IRA or a traditional 401k, that sort of tax distinction rings true, because what it does is give you the tax break now this year. The government says, oh, Brendan, we see that you put $5,000 into your traditional IRA this year. So what we know is that you didn't go and spend $5,000 on a vacation or on burritos and race cars or on anything else fun. You designated this money into this special retirement account, so we're going to pretend like you didn't make it. They chop off $5,000 off the top of your income and say, we're not going to tax you on that part of your income because we know where that money went and it wasn't to you. So here's a tax break, essentially. It's called reducing your taxable income. Your income now just looks less to the government, so you pay less in taxes. So in essence, you're saving money nowadays. It'd be like if somebody gave you a discount on your mortgage or something. It's like you get to keep more of your own money. That's the long and the short of it. The reason that someone would do that is they go, hey man, I'm living for today. I want to get the tax break today because maybe I want to spend an extra couple $100 this year and I don't worry about taxes in the future. Or maybe they believe that taxes someday in the future will actually be less than they are now. There's a lot of like political, philosophical, future predictions based into these kinds of things that say, I'm sure there are people out there right now that say taxes are going to be horrible in the future. They're going to be so high because of the way our government's going. That means we should invest in a Roth because we know what the taxes are today, and I know they're going to be higher in the future, so let's get them out of the way now, and we'll end up saving money. Other people might say, hey man, the reality is I'm going to be making tons of money in the future, so just tax me today while I'm not making a lot, and then later on, when I'm making tons of money, then I'll be better off. Or if they're going to do the traditional route, it's save me the money today, and someday in the future I'll deal with it. Future me can figure that out, because there's really benefits to both. The Roth is great because you go, it's simple, I don't have to think about it again. The traditional is great because by and large, most people don't make that much income in retirement. And so it seems a little bit scary at first to go, well, gosh, if they're going to tax me someday in the future, how do I know how much I'm going to be taxed? Like, that's kind of scary. What if I get hammered on taxes because tax rates have gone way up, etc.? The unknown is real, so I'm with you there. But the beautiful thing is that if you're just withdrawing money from your investment account as your income in retirement, you have very little income. You have almost no taxable income whatsoever, so you're not going to be taxed on a big number like you are now in your working years. Long story, very long. I feel like we don't have to really worry about either of those outcomes. I think either way, you're benefiting so much from using this account that it's not worth sweating, if that makes sense. So I think as long as you're saving for retirement in a retirement account of some kind, then I'm not stressing about which kind it is. I think it's all wise. So if an investing service doesn't give you both an option of a retirement account and a taxable brokerage account, then I would say walk away and go use something else. The third thing that every investment brokerage needs to have in their investing account in 2024 is a high yield cash management. What I'm talking about here is the money that you don't have invested actually earning you money. This is cool. This is what we should expect. If they're not doing this, we can walk away. In years past, this has not been something that really moves the needle a lot because overall investment and interest rates were so low. Investing was doing well. Cash interest rates were not doing well. So let's say something like 2011, 2012, 2013, interest rates were so low that anybody holding cash was not paying you a lot back for doing that. Some were still better than others. 1 or 2% was a lot better than 0.01%. So there was still a margin to be had there. But right now, at time of filming this and recording this, there's an incredible difference to be had. CD rates are hitting 6%. Savings accounts are hitting 5%. People used to have to buy real estate to earn 5% interest. Now you can just park your cash in an FDIC insured savings account and make 5%. That is crazy compared to other times in history in recent past. So the fact that some other investing services out there who claim to be setting all of this stuff up for us for our success don't offer us a high interest rate on the cash that we're holding there is a huge missed opportunity for us, and they're going to miss out on business because of that too. Think about it this way. If you have $25,000 in cash at Wells Fargo, for example, like we did in the past, now we don't, by the way, and it's earning its typical big bank interest rate of a tiny, measly, awful little 0.15%, then that makes the total earning that we would have at the end of the year be $37.50. So the bank is saying, we get to use your money to go make more money from other people, probably loaning it out nowadays at 7, 8, 9, 10%. They're making massive profits on this thing. And as a massive thank you, we're going to give you $37. That's barely enough for 4 or 5 good-sized burritos. That is not acceptable at Wells Fargo. If you didn't do that, and you had that cash sitting somewhere else, they got you 5% interest, like they offer at Webull right now, like they offer at M1 Finance right now, like they offer at Robinhood if you pay the $5 a month right now. There's a lot of other options that can give you that much. I think SoFi is doing something similar. I think the Vanguard money market account is doing something similar. It's ubiquitous at this point. 5% on $25,000 a year is $1,250 in interest that you're making. It's literally as simple as moving the money to a different account, and that makes you $1,220 difference in the bottom line. So it's like, do you want $1,220? If I paid you $1,220 to move your money to a different account, would you do it today? Yeah, why not? It's still your money. You're still keeping it. It's still in a safe place. It's still FDIC insured. But for some reason, that concept of earning interest over the course of the year, I think, seems unappealing to people. And they're like, I don't want to do that. It's not worth the trouble. But tell you what, you add it up, it amounts to a lot. We have, what do we have right now? I want to say we have like 27 in M1 Finance's high yield savings account that's 5.0%. So it's just 5% even. And we're making almost $100 a month exactly. It's something like that. No, it should be more than that, right? $1,250. No, it's right at $100 a month. It's like $99.83 or something like that. Pretty awesome. I'll take $100 a month for doing absolutely nothing. Enough said. The fourth and final feature that every investing service should have in 2024 is automatic transfers. I remember a few years ago when people came out with us automatic transfers and you can set up this and you can set up that. They acted like they had just put a man on the moon. Like, we cannot believe how much you should pat us on the back for this new technological feature of automatic transfers and getting to schedule a transfer to happen when you want and getting to invest at this time if you want to do that. I mean, to me, it just seems like a bare minimum of necessity. It's hardly even a feature. This should be a foundational aspect of every banking and investing service that we use, that this is an option to us. If your service doesn't allow you to set up an automatic recurring transfer, like let's say you go, hey, I want $100 a month to go into my investing account. And of that $100, I want $20 to go in my IRA and I want $80 to go in my taxable brokerage account. If you can't do that with your current banking investing setup right now, get out of there. This is such a basic thing that everyone needs to be having available to them and everyone needs to be doing because of this one big fat reason. I'm convinced that automatic transfers alone are the number one contributor to me being able to invest for as long as I have. Not as much as I have, because income is the number one factor that helps you invest more money. But the number one factor that helps you invest over the longest period of time and makes that as easy as possible is automatic transfers. So for me, the difference is that when I have this thing set up and I'm of clear mind, I'm motivated to save and invest, I can set this thing up one time and then I have a 0% chance of forgetting to invest. I have a 0% chance of feeling unmotivated or pessimistic about the future and deciding, I'm not gonna invest this month, or I'm not gonna invest with this paycheck. I'm just gonna keep this. I have 0% chance of being tempted to buy something really fun and interesting instead of investing because the money's already gone. By the time I'm looking at cars and bids and finding a 2018 ND Miata that's supercharged, that's got a Xeric Fab roll bar and coilovers and a catch can, and it's got all this stuff done to it, and I go, ooh, I'm salivating now for this car. It's an ND2. I think ND2 started in 2018, so it's got more power anyway. Then it's got an Edelbrock supercharger on top of that, so thing's probably making 240 horsepower to the wheels. It's a convertible. It would be so fun. I could take my wife on dates in it. When the kids get a little bit bigger, I could take them one at a time to go eat breakfast or go to the store, do anything. It would be such a stress relief valve for my life. I loved owning a Miata before. This is the newest, best version of that. Someone else has paid for all the modifications that typically aren't reflected in the value of the car in the used market, so you kind of get those mods for free. And this guy probably put in the better part of $10,000 in it, so I'm getting $10,000 in mods for free. You see how my brain just snowballs here? And I'm like convincing myself that I need to do these things, and I just don't. Like, it's ridiculous. I don't need to do that, and yet I'm convincing myself that I need to spend the money. But it's so much easier to not spend the money if you don't have the money in your account because it's already invested. Ah, dang it. If I hadn't already invested that bonus that I got from work, I could have bought this car. I don't get bonuses that big, but you know what I mean? I think you get the gist of it. So here's my top tips on how to set up automatic transfers. If you're not doing this yet, and you just heard me say all that, and you're like, I don't know, Brendan, I'm not doing that at all. I just invest whenever I can, or I invest as often as I remember, or whatever. I'm not trying to bash on you for not doing it, because that's not the intent here. The intent is just to say, I think this is such a useful tool that everybody to some degree should be using it. So here's how I think the best way is to start using this tool. I would say start by investing in an account and with an amount that you can live with. So you go, all right, I know for a fact I can part with $20 a week. I'll make it happen. I'll find a way. I'll watch my bank balance. You know, I can, at a bare minimum, do that. Start with your bare minimum. And then over time, as you acclimate to that amount being gone, then slowly increase it. Okay, then next month, maybe you do $25 a week. And the week after that, this is a pretty good week. This feels easy. I'll do $30 a week. And then the next month after that, maybe you do $40 a week. And before you know it, you're at $100 a week, which totals up pretty fast. That's $5,200 a year. You know, now you're investing a pretty substantial amount of money, and you started at just $20 a week. So the beauty of this is that it's so much easier. And what you've done is you've set in an infrastructure level. So think about this. If you're watching this video with me here in the truck driving home from a long day of work, and you can see out the windows at all, there's nothing out here where I am right now in Arizona but the freeway. The freeway is the only piece of drivable road anywhere in sight. The rest is just rolling hills covered in rocks and dead plants and little bushes and stuff. So unless you're in a monster truck, the only place you can drive is where the road has already been paved. They carved out big chunks of the mountain. They laid down asphalt. Now we have a highway to go as fast as we want on, in theory, and we can just go. But until that has been set up, you're stuck out there in the wilderness. And so if you don't have an automatic transfer set up, then you're basically out there on a mountainside trying to cover ground, but it's almost like a constant struggle because you don't have any kind of runway set up or a freeway built yet. And so you're constantly having to think about it and make the decision, and you get decision fatigue, and well, gosh, next month is so-and-so's birthday. I don't know if I'll be able to afford it then. And so you decide not to, and then you get out of the habit, and then you haven't invested now for 6 months, and you know how that downward spiral goes whenever we get out of our good habits. The beauty of having the freeway paved, which is the automatic transfers, is that A, you can just hit cruise control and not think about it and invest the same amount indefinitely, which is way better than nothing. But the really, really powerful thing happens whenever you go, oh my gosh, I just got a bonus at work. Or, oh my gosh, I just got that promotion, which means I got a raise, which means now I have more money available to me. And the way that you invest more without feeling the hit of it, without feeling the pain of having to make that decision to invest more, is you wait until you got a bonus or a raise, and then you just take a big chunk of that before you get used to it, before it ever hits your bank account. Well, maybe not right before it hits your bank account. I'd say as soon as it hits your bank account, increase your automatic contribution to take a substantial portion of that raise or that bonus and roll that into your automatic contribution. So I would say, I mean, for me, my rule of thumb is at least 40% of any raise or any bonus goes straight to investments, because you've never tasted the money anyway. I don't recommend tasting money. It's filthy. It's dirty. But it's like if you had taken the bonus and it sat in your bank account and you saw $5,000 sitting there, this new $5,000 sitting there tempting me, I could buy this and that, and I could get a gift for somebody, and I could pay off that thing over there, and I could do this. Before you know it, you've already spent all that money in your head because you just have had it in front of you. Same thing with a raise. But if before your mind can ever acclimate to it and make plans with it, if you say, hey, 40% of that is gone. So what is that, a $5,000, $2,000? You're like, you know what? $2,000 of that is going straight to my Roth IRA. Not even gonna think about it. The decision's been made. And the best part is that you still get a raise or a bonus. You still would have $3,000 left over to do all the fun stuff with and make plans and pay this and buy that and give that gift and do the fun thing. You still get to experience the joy of having that extra money, and you've made such a great decision for your future to invest more. For me, that's like my best moments of money and investing life, is being able to make those kinds of decisions and go, it's a win-win. I get to have my cake and eat it too. Like, I'm investing tons, I'm getting to spend a lot, everything is great. And so that's my recommendation for your automatic withdrawals, or not your automatic withdrawals, your automatic contributions, your automatic transfers, to start with the baseline, bump it over time, and then really bump it up if you get a raise, or do a one-time lump contribution whenever you get a bonus. And my phone has just overheated, which is lovely. Sorry for that brief interruption. I had to switch to phone number 2 because phone number 1 overheated up here, being mounted by the windshield, and it's still fairly warm here in Arizona. Even though it's November, it's 71 outside, so kind of, sort of, maybe a little bit warm. I think now what we need to talk about is what investing services are out there that actually offer these features, because they do exist. It's not like I've created some unreasonable standard for investing services that no one can do. It's like that friend you had growing up. I don't know why I'm picturing a woman doing this, but a man could do this too, where she's like, you know what? I just have my list of 30 things that I've got to find in the perfect man, and once I find him, I'm going to marry him and lock him down. And you're like, 30 things? That's a hell of a list. You've got some high standards there, Stacy. Which I in the past, in reality and dating terms, that has worked fairly well for people I know, because they are then fairly choosy and they find somebody they really like. But what I haven't done is make that equivalent difficult hoop to jump through when it comes time to finding an investing service, because so many investing services do all these things. I would say first off, Acorns almost does it. The one thing where they drop the ball in terms of those 4 requirements is having a high yield cash management service, like a high yield savings account. I don't know why they don't. It's in my mind, sorry, I'm having a hard time talking because it's so ridiculous to me that they don't, that they absolutely should, and they are dropping the ball big time to not have a 5 or 6% high yield savings account right now. It's ridiculous to me. They've got to get that going. I don't know if there's plans for that. I haven't seen any announcements. I haven't heard any rumors, but my gosh, they need to do it. Oh, there's a black ND Miata right there. An ND RF hardtop, love it. See, those guys are having fun. I guarantee you they're having more fun in that car than I'm in this thing. But I'm guessing that car is also worth like $26,000. So I would rather keep $26,000 this time in my life. The next investing service that does this is Webull. Webull has all of these options right now, and they're very intent on keeping up with like the specifications game. Like if somebody else comes out with a feature, they want to have that feature. Is Webull my absolute favorite investing app of all time? Definitely not. I don't love using it. I don't love the fact that they're touting a lot of like extra information and level 2 stock quotes and all this information that you would need if you were day trading and stock picking and trying to be a wise guy and do what you think is right financially, when really the right thing statistically is index funds and ETFs over a long period of time, dollar cost averaging, yada yada yada. So I don't love that they incentivize that kind of thing, and other people are critical of them in other ways, but they do meet all 4 of these requirements, so I appreciate that. Actually, I'm not 100% sure on that. I believe that they have an IRA option, but I'll need to double check that and put it either in the show notes or in a pinned comment on YouTube, because I'm not 1,000% sure they have an IRA. I think they do, but we'll keep going. The next group that does this, and I'm actually sure of them doing this well, is Fidelity. My wife's 401k is sponsored by Fidelity, or hosted at Fidelity, sponsored by her employer, because a 401k is an employee-sponsored work plan. And, you know, they're just a great service. I haven't talked about them a lot in the past, but they've got really low fees. They offer all the account types. You know, they give you all the options. It's a very powerful service. And so there's no reason I shouldn't be talking about them more. I just don't have the most experience with them. And even though my wife uses them, you know, I'm not like in their account all the time. I check the thing 4 or 5 times a year and then I'm out. So I think it's worth being on the list. I think it's fantastic. And if you're looking for something that has all these 4 features, then check them out. The other option I know of and am most familiar with that has all this stuff is M1 Finance. I know for a fact that they have multiple account types because I use them. I have 2 or 3 IRAs through M1 Finance, and I have a couple brokerage accounts, and I have their high yield savings account that I talked about before. Their checking account just got removed from their feature list, so if you really wanted that, that's off the table now, but that's not in the top 4. Also, I'm 99% sure that both SoFi and Wealthfront check all 4 boxes too, so there's a lot of options out there. I think that if you're using anybody who's not a major, well-known, well-vetted investing service, you also have got to just watch out for that, because there are so many new fintech companies coming out nowadays. I'm not like a big online presence. You know, I don't have some large amount of social clout that makes companies want to work with me, but I do get emails and I get offers from people to say, hey, can we work together? Can you do a review on our new app, or can you talk about us, or can you do whatever? And most of the time, these small companies are just asking me to do it. they're not going to pay me or do anything. And on basically all of them, I say, no, what's your feature? Like, what is it that you have that differentiates you from anybody else? And I swear it's like they all have the same exact feature list as all the other apps. Oh, well, we've got really great data and insights into the market, and we're using an algorithm to help you decide this and that, and we've got fast day trading, and we have this and that. And it's like, guys, that's the same as every other brand new fintech company that's out there on the market. It's just not appealing. There's nothing here that tells me that I'm going to get better performance, have a better experience, make more money, do all the things that I care about by using your service. And man, you talk to them and they have the highest hopes in the world for their service. Like, they have just invented sliced bread. Watch out, world. We're going to come take over. And it's like, dude, I don't see it. I don't agree. I don't want to talk about your app because it's not like I can identify preemptively that it's trash or it's going to fail or whatever. But in a very basic sense, I look at a service like theirs being any number of a dozen or more new fintech companies that have approached me, and I go, I can already tell you that there's nothing appealing about this. There's nothing unique. There's nothing special. You're not offering any kind of unique value. It's like somebody who makes bad sandwiches and opens a restaurant. It's like, dude, you're so replaceable that there's no way I'm betting on you making it. And so the problem that I would have if you were using one of those new services, maybe they somehow were appealing to you or they offered you some kind of great sign-up bonus or whatever. The fact is that they're probably going to go out of business because not enough people will use them to be able to pay back their venture capital they got to get started or to pay off the loan or whatever they got to get started. So you're going to end up with basically a dead investing service. And this is whole nother podcast for another day. But I have people ask me all the time, oh man, what happens if Acorns shuts down? Oh man, what happens if M1 closes their doors? Is my money all gone? There are specific rules and requirements with the American federal government set in place to protect your investments if a brokerage goes out of business. So unless you have crazy millions of dollars all in one place and you exceed the limits of that protection, then this is not something we should worry about. Now, if you're investing with somebody overseas that's very crooked and seems very sketchy, or if you're investing in something that's blockchain related, then I can make no claims whatsoever to any kind of federal protection for you. Because whenever you're investing in these sketchy startups, in these blockchain related products, blockchain, if you're not familiar, is sort of the backbone of like every cryptocurrency or crypto related thing. If you're in those kinds of things, then all bets are off because you're basically on the black market or in this kind of gray zone that's like you're not dealing with a regulated financial security at that point. You're out in deep waters on your own. Good luck to you. If you're determined to use those kinds of financial, if you want to call them that, financial products, investment vehicles, if you want to call anything crypto related investment grade, then just know that you're on your own, and if you want to take that risk, then it, in my opinion, should be a very minimal amount of our overall net worth, knowing that the likelihood of that going to absolute zero is very high. It's happened a bunch in the recent past, and so I don't know why we wouldn't expect it to happen in the future. That's my take on it. I'm pessimistic in that way. If you love it and you use it, I still love you. I want you to be here. We're not going to butt heads about it because it's your money in your life. So I can't tell you what to do with your money in your life. This is entertainment value only here. So what am I going to do with our investing accounts in the future, and how are we going to be making sure that all of our investment services have all these features? I still have some money with Acorns, and they don't technically meet the cash management side of things, but I also have no cash with Acorns. Everything I have with them is invested. Is that an excuse? Not really, but if I don't have any cash there, I don't have to worry about it not earning enough interest. The accountability that I need is to make sure that we don't have too much cash in our darn Wells Fargo checking account, because that's just going to sit there dead in the water and not be earning enough money. Right now, we probably have a couple $1,000s too much in there. I should probably transfer out a little bit, but also the holidays are coming up, so we're going to need some more in there. It's an ebb and flow thing. It depends on the seasons of life and seasons of year for you. I will continue to use M1 Finance for now. I don't love it when a service like them, or anybody for that matter, adds and withdraws features pretty frequently off and on. If you missed it, I just made a video relating to this and how Miata has done this over time. Miata Savings is a prize-linked savings service that came out a few years ago, gained a lot of popularity really quickly. It was this kind of unique thing for America to have this style of almost like a lottery of interest rates where you go, it's in a savings account, but the amount that you can win in terms of a savings bonus that acts as your interest rate could vary from, almost nothing or no money this month to potentially like a huge prize. Like some woman won, was it 500 grand? I think she won 500 grand from Miata. Nicolette from Georgia, if I remember correctly. And so like that prospect of lottery-like winnings from your savings account is really cool because you're not spending any money to get access to it. You're just saving money, and then maybe you win a bunch of money on top. So it's kind of a have your cake and eat it too sort of situation. But the problem with Miata has been that over the last few years, they add and remove features at such a rapid frequency that it's really annoying and disconcerting. It makes the service really not very good to use. Because I get that they need to stay relevant, they want to be on the cutting edge, they want to attract customers, and to do that, you've got to be out there doing new stuff. Like everybody else does it in the rest of the market in the world. Nike comes out with new shoes, Honda makes new cars, they're constantly iterating and making new products. So I think Miata was trying to do a similar thing with their financial products. But the problem is whenever, it'd be like if you bought a Honda, there's a Honda CR-V in front of me. If you bought a Honda CR-V and then a year later they were like, oh, yeah, you liked your Honda CR-V, right? Okay, well, we're going to take that away and we're going to give you a Civic. Like, what? How are you just ripping this product away from me that I already am using and like, and I chose specifically to buy your thing because I like your product and now I can't use it anymore? That's what Miata's been doing. They've rolled out so many new products just to unroll them out 6 or 9 or 18 months later that it's really annoying to use them. So for some reason, I get the vibe that M1 Finance is kind of doing that. They had their owner's reward credit card, which I think they still have, where you basically get like an extra rewards percentage if you shop at certain stores. And they had a checking account that they've removed. And I feel like they had something else too that they added and then removed. And I'm like, you know what, guys? If you can't live with this service for 5 or 10 years, then what are you even doing with it? But I'm also not in the fintech world. I'm not in venture capital. And so I can't say with certainty the overall net impact of that kind of thing, of rolling out a new service, then revoking it and pissing off your customers. What's the churn rate on those customers then if they're all pissed off because you keep doing that? And can you track it specifically? I don't know. I would prefer a level of stability and a little bit of experimentation in whatever my services are. Beggars can be choosers, right? If we don't like it, our job is to move our money elsewhere. Just go do something else. Stop incentivizing them to stay the same and doing what they're doing. Incentivize them to do something different. That's how I feel about that. But I think we've chatted long enough in the truck. I would love to add a feature here to these podcasts because they are very long-winded. And the problem with that is that they're very one-sided. If you could be here in the truck with me, we could chat. But since you're not in the truck with me, we got to chat elsewhere. I would love it if you sent me an email or filled out a Google form or in some other way got in contact with me. I'll put some information in the video description and in the show notes for this episode so you can reach out. Ask me a question. Say, hey, Brendan, here's my situation. What do you think about this? Or, hey, Brendan, I saw this in the news. What do you think about the fact that IBM is no longer doing 401k matching the way they used to? They're doing some weird benefit reward program for their employees and they're taking away their 401k match. Like, what does that mean? And I work for a big company. What would my big company ever do that? What would that mean for me? What's a better alternative? Let's start to talk about things back and forth together and let me know what you want to talk about because I would love that. And it would feel less alone. Anyway, if you've made it all the way to here, we are very much in the deepest end of this conversation, and I so appreciate you being here. And let me know too, if this noise level is so annoying and unpalatable because my truck is so loud, maybe we don't do these in-truck podcasts anymore. But the reason I love it is otherwise this time would be just me sitting here listening to a book, and we wouldn't be able to have this conversation because I frankly don't have time when I get home to take care of 2 kids and put them to bed and go on a run and do all the things I need to do as a human to then make this extra podcast episode with you. So this is kind of the format that allows this to exist. I don't want to be annoying and have a negative impact on you guys, because this is such a noisy atmosphere to try and make a podcast happen. But if it's palatable enough and it's not the worst, maybe we keep doing it. So thanks you guys for being here. We're going to do a secret comment word today because I forgot to in the last podcast episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a comment. If you're watching it, if you're listening to this elsewhere in a podcast player, then sorry, can't really comment in the same way. Why don't they have comments on podcasts? That's really like a question I need to investigate, I guess. Because I don't know why you wouldn't. I feel like it would be better for people. I mean, the comment sections do get pretty nasty sometimes. Maybe it's cleaner to not do that. I don't know. But the lovely secret comment word for today will be sunset, because I'm coming down the I-17 from Flagstaff towards Phoenix, and I'm approaching this area called Sunset Point. It's this very like stereotypical kind of pull-off for northern Arizona, where there's a big cliff, let's put a parking lot there and call it a rest area and make it a scenic lookout. And so you can basically look out towards the west and see this giant mountain range. And yeah, it's pretty, like it's nice, but it's also something like I've seen my whole life, so I'm kind of used to it. But only you and I, having made it through 45 minutes of a podcast, will know what the heck you're talking about whenever you comment sunset on this YouTube video. People are like, why did that person say something about sunsetting their 401k and moving to an IRA? That's a weird way to say it. Oh no, you and I will know. All right, guys, I'm gonna go back to driving safely. Hope you all are having a wonderful year, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.